After a quick YouTube video, I am now a Volvo expert and I can open hoods. It's hidden way down in here. Not that hard to find, it's just black. So now the hood is open and now we can see the witchcraft, maybe. I'm sure it'll all be hidden under covers. Unfortunately, I'm correct. So there's some corrosion down here for a car this new. It's kind of ugly. So what is going on here? There's a really big, weird-looking engine mount. Obviously, the engine's mounted the wrong way because this is essentially a van. Battery's probably in the rear, like a lot of these European car types. Yeah, so there's a turbocharger and a supercharger in here somewhere, or so I was led to believe. All right, so I've removed the giant foam sound deadening mat thing. Pretty interesting. Got the camera on. So now we can see what's going on here. So here's your intake manifold, and which means the exhaust is on that side. But what's also on that side is a supercharger. So there's your serpentine belt, your accessory pulleys, all the normal stuff, compressor, alternator, whatever. That's a supercharger. So it's also encased in foam, like everything on this car. A lot of sound deadening. So that thing sits right there. That's your supercharger. And also tucked back there, there's a turbocharger. Unfortunately, we can't see that. Into the airbox from right here. Flows into the airbox, into a supercharger. Literally, supercharger. Belt-driven supercharger. Then it goes into a turbocharger beneath it. Then it goes into that shiny pipe down there, over into here. You see, follow the shiny pipe, and then hit the big 2-inch pipe down the bottom. Into here, into the intercooler, up here. Comes out of the intercooler, right there, and it flows up into the intake, which is right here, into the engine. It's hilarious. It's like, that air is such a, like, the air goes in the front, under, through, turbo, under the motor, back around, back here, and then boom, in there. So they did all this to make this little 4-cylinder motor make 300 horsepower, supercharged and turbocharged. That's actually kind of cool. Sorry. A lot going on in here. Why do you just drop a V8 in it? Well, it's emissions. It's pretty efficient, but it's also very low on emissions apparently because of all that and all these hoses and things. It's pretty clean underneath here. You know, there's some corrosion and stuff for a couple-year-old car. I don't know if it was near salt or whatever, but definitely a little bit of corrosion. There's an 8-speed automatic stuck right there, and then a drive shaft shooting off of it somehow going to the back. So pretty wacky. Quite as much clearance as my Jeep, but there is some ground clearance, and everything's tucked up in there. Oh wow, look at that. That's what holds the car up. It's a plastic torsion beam. Well, I'm glad I got underneath here. I would not have figured that out. That's interesting. So there's a CV up there, there's a shock absorber, a pretty big sway bar, and then this piece of plastic on both sides, and that's what actually holds at the back of the car. Wow, that is cool. I'm glad I got underneath here and looked at that. It's got better skid plates than an F-150, that's for sure. There's your back diff. I don't know if it's got any limited slip on it. It looks like it's got an electrical disconnect there, so that's probably where it engages and disengages. I'm sure it's primarily front-wheel drive. Big aluminum control arms. This thing I'm laying on smells like gear oil because of the Jeep. But yeah, pretty interesting suspension setup. Big, nice body mounts. I'm right next to the exhaust and it's not even hot. I just shut the car off. That's also kind of peculiar. But it's got good ground clearance. Everything is tucked up in there really well, so I'll actually take this thing and do some off-roading if you don't mind. Yeah, so cool. Let's see what we can see under the front. There's a gas tank, pretty big. Is it on both sides? I think it is. It's a split gas tank. Pretty huge. I wonder what the range on this thing is. I'm sure it's decent. All right, so we already talked about the intercooler, which is right there. Not much to see under the front. A lot of skid plates and aero going on. It's buttoned up pretty tight. There's the front CVs. Whoa, what kind of suspension do we have going here? Is that double wishbone? Oh, it sure is. Check that out. That is some pretty good looking suspension. So it's kind of a strut, but it's not quite a strut because it's got a link there. A strut would hook right to the knuckle, right? So I think that's some kind of double wishbone suspension or something. It's fancy, whatever it is. I'm sure it's Swedish. But yep, you can see a little bit in here. These skid plates are plastic in the front. They do have some aero in there, probably to cool off the turbo and things like that. But it's all tucked up in here nicely. A A lot of aluminum components. Everything looks pretty good. This car is really clean. This would not be a bad used car to buy if anyone's looking for a used XC60 that's fully loaded. There's that front camera, kind of hidden in the emblem. And I guess there's probably some cameras in the mirrors as well. Yep, there's the other camera. There's one of those on each side. So I think we've answered most of the mysteries I had, except for what are these hooks up here. So that concludes my review of this awesome little car. I'm gonna talk about the seats. The seats, probably the best part of the car. It's got the thing where this adjusts to put different levels of thigh support, like a lot of European cars have. 4-way lumbar support. Let's see if you can see it in action. Can you see that moving? I don't know if you can, but I sure can, and it looks extremely comfortable. So that's excellent. The seat goes up and down, forward and back quite a lot. Really nice feeling leather. 20,000 miles on this leather, and it still looks absolutely brand new. That's a good sign. It doesn't have an electric steering wheel. That's a little bit disappointing. These doors are kind of dim and plasticky, but it's fine. Speaker here. Sound system's great. Really crisp, clean sounding. It's not what I would call loud, but it's a pretty quiet car. These tires aren't the best. It's a pretty big wheel, 20-inch wheel, only on 255/40, but a little bit of road noise on some surfaces. But I don't know, maybe there's a quieter tire you could put on it. I was on a pretty rough road, so not real surprised how noisy it was. All right, let's get underneath it. The screen is kind of like that Subaru we reviewed, a little smaller, but it has Android Auto and it puts it as part of the screen, and then you retain your other functions up here. There's a lot of swiping that goes on, so you swipe this way, you get a bunch of vehicle functions. That's where you turn off your traction control. That's where you do the thing when you fold the headrest down, like I showed you earlier. Road sign information. This car can read road signs. Hilarious. Camera. It's got a rear camera, and it's got a front camera too. I don't know if you can actually access it though. Here we go, 360 view. There you go. So that's pretty hilarious. You know, other vehicles have it as well, but so we can go to front. There's my garage. How do we go? Go back to 360, then we can look at the side. Pretty excellent. So that's pretty cool. It's got all kinds of sensors and stuff to help you not run into things. Look how the tires in the Jeep look. Cool. So to go home, you hit the home button. It's basically a big cell phone. Heads up screen, which I think you can probably see it. Yeah, you can actually see the hologram on the phone's flickering a little bit. It tells you your speed and your speedometer. I haven't messed with too much on that as far as can you customize it. There's a lot of funny features on here. Cruise control. You can change adaptive cruise control settings, toggle on whatever, and then you can override with this. That's your following range right there. This just seems to do music and volume. This does menu. Ah, here it is. Okay, that's what I haven't found yet. So you hit that, and then you can go through your trip. So average is 25 miles per gallon, this little guy. Not terrible. Does do some media, phones. So you can do a lot from the steering wheel. That's pretty cool. I can see where the previous owner used to live. Interesting. Okay. So it does have nav. It's fully loaded as everything. And then if you swipe over this way, there's driver performance graphs. It's kind of funny. It tells you how efficient you're being or not efficient, I guess. Your radio stuff, your Bluetooth, that's where you get to Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, car status. What will this tell us? Car's not broken. Tire pressure monitoring. Storing tire pressure, whatever, who cares? Oh, owner's manual. There's the owner's manual. It's in the car. That's why I couldn't find it in the glove box. It's funny. I'm not going to mess with that. Not going to bore you with all that, but I might read some of it. Okay, it's got XM. It's got its own built-in nav. Obviously, I would use Android Auto, but this is a pretty good nav. It's pretty. You can do 3D mode on it and stuff. Whatever. I haven't really messed with it all that much. Oh, there you go, full screen nav. So that's cool. What else is special about this interior? These knobs are like really pretty. This is your drive mode selector, so you tap it. Off-road, dynamic, comfort. So we'll test out some off-road stuff here in a minute. Auto stop start, park and brake, standard stuff. There's no button, unfortunately, for traction control, just like that Subaru, you got to come into here, swipe over this way, and then you can get your traction control here. And that's how you get the fastest launches in this thing. 0 to 60 is actually not too bad. It's about 5.5 seconds with the all-wheel drive supercharged turbocharged setup, which this is. No USB-Cs because it's 2018. The new one has USB-Cs. Yeah, I don't know if I have much else to tell you. We'll go in the back, draw out the back seats. Yeah. Seats are also very comfortable. You really get to appreciate the big open ceiling in the back seat. You don't really appreciate it in the front seat so much. Kind of wish it went farther forward, but the windshield's really sloped. There's 4 of these things, like I said earlier. I don't know what they are. They're all over the place. Sure, I can figure it out, but everything's really nice. Even this is like not just cheap plasticky, it's kind of soft. I love the vent in the corner here. You know, giving your passenger 2 sets of vents is about as good as it gets. This thing is the rear control, which is locked, so I have to unlock it up front somehow. I feel like a child back here. I got a cigarette lighter, a little net. This flips down. And do we have cup holders? I don't think we do. This is just some storage, but it's all very nice leathery type stuff. I guess that could be a cup holder down there. Not really good rear passenger cup holders. What the heck is this? I'm sure that opens somehow. So can we fold the seat down? Which way does it split? There's a latch back here. Yep, here we go. What the heck? Don't understand the purpose of this. That does open though for some reason. Interesting. Oh, there's the keys. That's probably why I couldn't get the trunk to open. This is wrapped in leather. It looks pretty shitty after a little bit of use. Not a very beautiful key fob. And there's no remote start on it either, which I find to be very annoying. So I'm gonna slam this back. Everything feels real quality in here, interior-wise. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to sit in the back of this thing just because the back seats are really comfy. They don't recline or anything, but they're at a really comfortable angle already. And yeah, you're looking at the back of this headrest, which is a big headrest that is kind of fixed, but you have so much sky view out of here. It's actually pretty premium to sit in the back of this thing. That sounded super, super lame. I gotta figure out what these are. This is driving me nuts. Anyways, I guess there's an air duct in here somewhere. That's pretty funny. It doesn't have air in the ceiling like a van, so it's not quite a van, but it kind of is a van because it's transverse engine, 4-wheel drive van. Okay, let's see if we can get the trunk open. Got 4 tie downs. The seats fold down with these buttons. They don't fold back up, unfortunately. In here is your spare, your jack. There's also a lot of other room. You could stick a compressor or some extra stuff here. Some extra storage space down here. Judging by those big wires, I bet your battery's underneath that spare, space saver spare. That's interesting. Better than underneath the car, though, easier to get to. You have a 12-volt socket back here. They've got this divider you can hook up to so people can't see in your trunk, I guess. I think these are obnoxious in SUVs. Not a fan of that, but it comes out easily. Cool. Nice seals. Everything looks pretty well made. This car's the interior and exterior of the car looks perfect for it being a couple years old and having some miles on it. The only thing that's really not perfect that I've seen so far is the corrosion in the engine bay. So, electricity door, and apparently it's got the door where if I come up here and I wave my foot, it should open. Oh, it does. Wow, that is the ultimate right there. Now, will it close if I do that? I don't think so. I think you have to actually press the button to initiate closing. So that button closes and that closes and locks the doors. Cool. We got that figured out. That's what you'd pop out to hook up your little tow connector. All right, let's turn it off so it's not as hot, and we'll get underneath it and see what we can see.